Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is John Nabanda. My student ID is 205 And here I want to talk about the journal from my course, which is Evolution of L2 Motivation in Higher Education by Ali H. Al-Hoorie. And the first one, we have an introduction. This was a motivation is a subject of interdisciplinary interest cutting through such a diverse field of knowledge as education, psychology, sociology, and economics and political science. Motivation commonly defined as the extent to which the individual works or strives to learn the language because of a desire to do so and the classification and experience in this activity. And the set point was theoretical framework. The approach adopted here to examine L2 motivation focus on its evolution or how it's changed over time. This is because high motivation may look like a stable attribute of one learner, while low or lack motivation might appear characteristic of one another. And then the third one was motivation in higher education. Part of this temporal dimension is how motivation evolved over the years in higher education. One might be tempted to believe that the higher education student is naturally more motivated than a school child based on the assumption that adult learners are different and consequently require different treatment from school children. Knowles 1968 introduced the term andragogy as opposite the pedagogy. To revert to this distinction in this view, adults are assumed to be more independent, more experienced, more interested in knowledge application in real life, and more intrinsically motivated than school children. And we have a Saudi context, Saudi Arabian. Because the current study was conducted in Saudi Arabia, this literature review will focus on the studies conducted in the Saudi context. Another study, Al-Taibi 2004, examined the relationship between use of learning strategies and L2 motivation among Saudi students at the Institute of Public Administration in Riyadh. The study found that motivation correlated with all strategies examined. And we have a motivational intensity. According to Gardner 1985, integrative motive L2 motivation encompasses three components: motivational intensity or effort, desire to learn language, cognition, and attitude towards language learning, affect. Gardner 1985 also operationalized his theory into an extensively tested and highly reliable self-report instrument to measure motivation and called it the attitude or motivation test pattern. And we have the present study. The uniqueness of this study system from the fact that it addresses an area that has not received sufficient attention. This area, the evolution of the study student motivation is higher education. And then we have a material and method participant. The participants were male freshman students of an elementary pre-intermediate level of proficiency and with an age range of 18 to 20. Instrument due to Secretary of Studies that tested motivational intensity, a new instrument was developed in order to measure exam procrastination. First research question is made. The instrument included items about the time and the participant first started preparing for their tests and the semester of the study. And then we have a procedure. The teacher of each class of the foundation year was asked to choose 4 students. This teacher was instructed to choose one student they considered above average, two average student, and one below average. And then is test statistical analysis. There were two scale types in the questionnaire. For the first type, their response were coded as follows: never 0, seldom 1, usually 3, and always 4. For the second type, I don't, was coded as 0, and other anchors were coded into increasing numerals. Because the instrument was concerned with motivational intensity, which implies persistency and consistency, it was decided to code irregularly as 0 also. Result from the procrastination items. There were three procrastination areas covered by instrument: preparing for the weekly quizzes and preparing for each the two major exam the participant had before study. And then we have autonomy items. To examine the participant autonomy, several areas were surveyed, including daily studying, learning vocabulary, and practicing the four skills. And then we have discussion. The result of this study seems to be lend some support to the other studies review above that painted in a gloomy picture where there is a pattern of motivation to decline over time. In the present study, this pattern was revealed specifically in exam procrastination and daily studying, but not in the other areas. And we have a pedagogical implication. The major pedagogical implication of studying the macrotemporal motivation is for teachers to have realistic expectation of their studying motivation at a different time. Teachers who expect this declining pattern can adjust their motivation effort accordingly. For example, instead of blaming their student and labeling them as lazy, teacher would accept this decline as a natural developmental route of their student evolving motivation. And then we have limitation of the study. Generally, response elicited by self-report questionnaire are potentially problematic in representing reality due to possibility of memory bias. Still, some methodologies argue that retrospective design may yield more valid data when it elicits the amount of past behavior after a relatively short time, such as a week or month, like the case in present study, as opposed to eliciting attitudes and feeling about past events. And we have a future research in this study. Three possibility explanation of the sliding motivation were discussed. A future study would be shed more light on which of these or other explanation is more relevant to which group of learners. And the conclusion was this paper has attempted to investigate the macro-temporal dimension of L2 motivation in higher education. The finding might be interpreted as confirmation of the gloomy picture of motivational decline, or in more optimistic light where learner formulate goals that are more realistically. Alright, thank you for listening. Goodbye.